bit of our presentation is to really enhance our study of immigration and human rights. The students researched and picked individual debate topics that had to do with immigration, and they did research and they researched different points and chose different sides on the contentious, frankly, current debates that are going on right now about immigration. We felt it was important that in a debate, or that debates allow for everyone to try to understand a side of an argument they might not agree with, to really understand the complexities of an important issue. So the students would like me to remind you, therefore, that some of the opinions that they are expressing and aggressively arguing for are not necessarily their own opinions. If you have not seen a debate before, pro and con does not necessarily mean they are for or against a certain argument. Pro just means, it can also mean the affirmative, meaning that the topic they chose was written in the affirmative, and con or negative just means that the sentence they chose was in the negative. And I'll give you some examples of that as we go along. There will be, each debate will last about 12 to 13 minutes. There will be time after each debate, maybe for one or two questions from the audience. And thank you, Luca and Franklin, for being here. Luca's the pro or the affirmative that immigration is good for American culture, and Franklin is arguing that immigration is harming American culture. I will be moderating. Get my timer ready. Thank you, Luca and Franklin. Luca, as the pro or affirmative, you have 45 seconds to deliver your opening statement.
Immigration finances American culture because it has and will continue to define our traditions and food, multiple views on America's problems, and religion. All these things prove that immigration is good for American culture.
Thank you. Franklin, you now have 1 minute to ask Luca any clarifying questions. Luca, you may respond.
Luca, what is your definition of culture?
Culture is the way people behave and what they believe and symbols that they accept.
That's all.
Franklin, you now have 45 seconds to deliver your opening statements.
A culture defines a country. Immigration is definitely harming our great American culture because it is transforming America into a new and not suitable country to live in. A, they're distracting our children in school. B, they're taking away our jobs so we cannot support the people who enrich our culture. And C, their immoral and inhumane practices are brought over to America. Immigration is harming the United States, a culture that has been alive for hundreds of years.
Thank you. Luca, you now have 1 minute to ask Franklin any clarifying questions, and Franklin, you may respond.
Are you saying that America has no cultures?
No, I'm saying that we have too many cultures and that we cannot allow any more. Our country is already faltering because of these cultures.
Thank you. Luca, you now have 3 minutes to deliver your main argument.
For the first argument, I'll be talking about how food is good for American culture. Traditional cuisines are complete systems for eating that give people food nutrition necessary to live well. Underdeveloped countries have low incidence of diseases created by food, such as diabetes and heart disease. And they have a diet of whole grains, many veggies, and good fats. And Michael Pollan states, in defense of food, we have as much, if not more, to learn about eating from organic, small-scale farming. Immigrants know how to farm. We must welcome immigrants so they can teach us how to properly farm and eat. My second argument states that people from other places is also good for American culture. Letting immigrants from all different cultures from all around the world will let us see more perspectives and have multiple views on problems to solve them. A university at Dallas, Texas, showed that people from other races help come up with a bank strategy. We should allow different cultures because they give advice for America's problems. And religion is another reason immigration is good for American culture. With all these traditions come a variety of religious beliefs. American economy benefits 2.6 trillion a year in religious spending, 1/6 of total economic output. This benefits everyone in America, not just religious people. It also results in less juvenile delinquency, drug use, and less crime. Immigration allows others to practice their religion freely, enhancing American culture for all.
Thank you. Franklin, you now have 1 minute to state any rebuttals.
Luca, you stated that we must welcome immigrant farmers, but if we do that, then our farmers will become impoverished. Right now, farming is already a faltering business, and by welcoming other immigrants to come help us, we will lose our jobs and we will become impoverished. And you said religion. Religion can be harmful. Why are we giving money to these harmful religions? Unification Church, they lure children in from their families and take them away from their families. And this religion is so bad that Germany even banned it from their country. Why would we want to give millions of dollars to these kinds of religions? It just doesn't make any sense. So, thank you.
Franklin, you now have 3 minutes to deliver your main arguments.
Immigration is harming American culture. How? Well, introducing these new cultures affect our children in school. They distract our children in their school environment. When a child has a birthday, another child might have to leave, or they might be absent because of their religious holidays, and that affects their learning environment. Japan, they don't allow child immigrants to ruin their educational systems. They are ranked 4th in the world for educational systems when the United States was ranked 17th. That's because they do not allow immigrants to ruin them. The Atlantic recently published an article that stated that it was really hard for teachers in Texas to help the child immigrants from Mexicans to learn. They needed Spanish-speaking classes, and it eventually almost totaled the entire school. So immigration is absolutely harming our school environments. Remember, a culture defines a country. Japan has a culture. They have sushi, fish, kimonos on special holidays, poetry, calligraphy. It's just part of their society. They don't allow nearly as many immigrants as the United States. The United States had 41.3 million immigrants in their country, and Japan only expects to allow 10 million over the next 50 years. The unemployment rate in America right now is 5.5%, while in Japan it's 3.5%. That's because they do not allow immigrants to take away their jobs. When our jobs are taken away, we cannot enrich the people who help create our culture. We cannot give money to the painters to make paintings. We cannot give money to the musicians to make music. And eventually, everyone in our country is impoverished. And immigrants come with their own cultures. They come with some that are inhumane and immoral. The Yunnan province in China eats dogs on religious holidays. Look, I asked you, would you want your dog to be eaten for a religious holiday? No answer? I'm guessing that would be a no. An Amazonian tribe, Satalimawe, their boys, for a coming of age ceremony, their boys are stung by ants. Luca, would you want your child to be influenced by these boys who are stung by ants? No. In Liberia, they give a 1-year punishment to homosexuals. If we had immigrants from Liberia come to America, they would ban gay rights. So, immigrants change laws, then change our culture. Then they change our country to one that is not suitable to live in.
Thank you. Luca, you now have 1 minute to respond with a rebuttal.
Your misunderstanding of other cultures is proof that we need more immigrants to educate. And eating dogs is already legal in 44 of our 50 states. And it's not like eating a pet, it's like eating cow or chicken. And what's disruptive is an ignorance about other cultures. Having immigrants here makes us more aware of others.
Thank you. Luca, you now have 1 minute to deliver your closing statement.
Immigration will continue to give us different tastes for different things. Religion, and people from different places will give us different opinions, and food. And earlier, when you said, did you want to get your kid getting stung? Well, I'm a child, and by then that custom could be gone. And
Or it could be.
and second,
Franklin, you'll have time to speak when you're
I didn't say America wasn't under the country.
No, but you were comparing them.
Franklin, you'll be able to stop during your closing statement.
If we let more immigrants into the country, then it'll expand our culture. Thank you.
Franklin, you now have a minute.
Cultures define a country. Immigration harms America because it's causing it to become a country that's not suitable to live in. Unfit environment to learn in. They take our jobs away so we cannot support the people who enrich our culture, and their inhumane and immoral practices are brought over. Luca, you said that dogs are, that it's legal to eat dogs. Well, some things that are illegal are inhumane and immoral. Farming cattle is different from eating dogs because dogs are part of your family. Same with cats, same with anything that's part of your family. You do not eat things that are part of your family. So I ask you this, how can we live in a country if we do not have a culture?
Thank you. There'll be time for maybe one or two questions from the audience.
Is it really true that it's legal to eat dogs in 44 states?
I believe so.
Wow. Mr. Trump, I mean, how would you go about closing the borders of this country to keep immigrants out?
How would I go?
How would you do it?
Well, we build a big wall. It would be a great wall, and Mexico would pay for it. The Canadians would pay for their wall too. Yeah.
Franklin, where did your ancestors come from?
America. My dad was born in America. But, no, Germany and Italy, so, yeah, they were immigrants. We were founded by immigrants, but our culture has to stay how it was. So we cannot, our country was already founded, so we cannot be refounded.
Yes,
Can you define American culture?
I define American culture. The music, the paintings, the people in our country right now, and how we live our lives regularly.
So would that correlate with the rest of the country in the world? They have music, they have painting, they have all the same things that you just described here. So how do we differentiate?
The people in our country.
Okay.
Thank you both. I'll see you. Next we have, thank you Willow and Madeline. Willow will be arguing in the affirmative. The United States should welcome and promote immigration. And Madeline will be arguing in the negative. The United States should discourage and restrict immigration. Willow, you have 45 seconds to deliver your opening statement.
Immigration makes our country stronger. The United States should welcome and promote immigration because it will bring wealth and strengthen our economy. A. It makes our country more diverse, which will allow more creativity for materials to be made and purchased in the U.S. B. Undocumented workers in the U.S. will lead to more people on welfare. C. More immigration gives us more labor, which gives us unlimited amount of wealth for our country.
Thank you. Madeline, you now have 1 minute to ask Willow any clarifying questions. Willow, you may respond.
But don't you think some immigrants take away our jobs?
No, they come here for a purpose, and that purpose is to have a better life. So they don't necessarily take our jobs. And also, you will hear some more in my arguments.
That's it? All right. Thank you. Madeline, you now have 45 seconds to deliver your opening statement.
The United States should discourage and restrict immigration. Immigration with no restrictions is the most dangerous policy because it's creating an unhealthy environment for all of us. My 3 supporting arguments is there are a lot of immigrants that promote drug and alcohol abuse. A lot of immigrants harm the economy and give out cheap labor and have a bad education. Too many immigrants is more pollution and harmful to the environment. Therefore, we should restrict immigration or not have it at all.
Thank you. Willow, you now have 1 minute to ask Madeline any clarifying questions. And Madeline, you may respond.
So, about saying that immigrants come in and bring drugs, so are you saying that all immigrants are addicted to drugs?
Yes. Most of them are. More of them
you now have 3 minutes to deliver your main arguments.
Okay. Immigration strengthens our economy and brings wealth into our country. It makes our country more diverse, which allows more options of consumer goods. Immigration is important because it helps provide more taxes for the government to pay for public services. According to the American Immigration Council, immigrants pay between $90 and $140 billion a year in federal and state taxes. That is why immigration is strengthening our economy. My second supporting argument is immigration brings more workers for the U.S. manufacturing jobs. Manufacturing in the U.S. is necessary for economic growth. Manufacturing in the U.S. reduces the unemployment rate because we will have more jobs, which will expand the tax base and pay for the benefits that will help us achieve growth. Bringing manufacturing jobs to the U.S. means we won't have to go outsource. According to the New York Times, U.S. manufacturing companies would make $600 billion of national revenue and create millions of jobs for the United States. More factories in the U.S. means more wealth for our nation. My third supporting argument: immigration helps keep businesses running if they are legal. Immigration strengthens the U.S. economy. Our country was built on immigration. The majority of people living on the U.S. are immigrants. The United States is the melting pot for immigration. Immigrants come here to seek freedom to build a better life. Contrary to the belief that immigrants are here to steal our jobs and weaken our economy, Alan Greenspring, an American economist who served as the chairman for the Federal Reserve of the United States from 1987 to 2006, states that we should allow immigration fill jobs, key sources, start their own businesses, and contribute to a thriving economy.
Thank you. Madeline, you now have 1 minute to respond with a rebuttal.
For your last statement, also states in the New York Times, January 6, 2015, there are an estimated 11 million immigrants in the country, and we also admit 1 million permanent legal immigrants each year, leading to enormous implications for the U.S. labor market. And there are 58 million working-age native-born Americans not working. And for your first statement, welcoming immigrants into the United States does not create a good environment. Welcoming immigrants only adds to the labor pools of the U.S. The immigrants work for less money and for more time. More workers creates an overpopulated place. It makes the place run down since they are not getting paid a lot because they were working for less money and for more hours.
Thank you. Madeline, you now have 3 minutes to deliver your main arguments.
My first argument is poverty and overpopulation are clearly not one in this country. So why add it on? Since the 1970s, more than 30 million foreign citizens and their descendants have been added to the local communities and labor pools of the U.S. There were 2 towns, Spencer and Storm Lake. They both were safe, they both had good education schools, they were amazing. One of them led in a corporation, and that corporation basically destroyed their town. All the immigrants started coming in, and they were working for less, and there was more run down, they were working, and there was more facilities added, and less people, more immigrants. And so, therefore, immigration has been destroying beautiful cities and towns, so we should not add on immigration. The capacity, for my second argument, the capacity of Earth is 3 to 4 billion people, and the Earth is carrying 7 billion. More people equals more trash and more polluted environment. 2.3 billion is the annual cost of collecting and disposing of New York City's residential and commercial waste of trash. Pollution is one of the world's biggest killers, affecting over 100 million people. More people, more cars, more people likely to die from the disease. And the diseases are artery disease, congestive heart failure, lung diseases, and COPD. And the third and final argument, immigration also promotes drug and alcohol abuse. Studies show that U.S. immigrants are more likely to have drug and alcohol abuse because of them native citizens. PMC states that when most immigrants enter the U.S., the risk of drug and alcohol abuse is lower than the native population, even among those of the same ethnicity. The longer the immigrant stays here, the greater the risk of alcohol abuse. Therefore, we should not promote immigration because it is hurting other people.
Thank you. Willow, you now have 1 minute to state your rebuttal.
Your points are very clear, but just to keep in mind that America is built off of immigration. The United States has been the melting pot for immigration. And we want to welcome and promote immigration for the people that want to come here. Not everyone wants to come to the U.S. because they live their home here.
Willow, you now have 1 minute to make your closing statement.
Like I said, the benefits of allowing immigrants to enter the U.S. are endless. The United States should welcome and promote immigration because it strengthens our economy. Immigration will make our country more diverse, and we will be able to increase labor, which will create more manufacturing jobs in the U.S. We will also be able to collect more taxes. Allowing immigrants strengthens our economy. We must allow immigrants to enter our country.
Thank you. Madeline, you have 1 minute to deliver your closing statement.
Do you want drugs and alcohol abuse? Do you want an unhealthy environment? Do you want poverty, cheap labor, and a bad education for your children? If you want bad economy or an unhealthy environment, then let them in. That's not what I want, or I'm guessing what you want. I want an environment that is healthy and is strong and safe. So therefore, we must restrict immigration to keep our country safe.
Thank you. Thank you both. We have time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience.
May I ask a question? Are you suggesting that there's no drug or alcohol abuse amongst the American society at large, and particularly amongst the American Native Indians, which, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong, is very heavily skewed towards drug and alcohol abuse? So how do you counter that argument with immigrant alcohol and drug abuse? Are you saying all immigrants are alcoholics and drug abuse? I'm an immigrant. I don't think I'm an alcoholic or drug abuser. I'm sorry, I didn't do too much on you.
What was your evidence that you read earlier?
That the PMC states that most immigrants in the U.S., their risk of drug and alcohol abuse is higher than native citizens. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
When you are against immigration, are you talking about legal immigration or all kind of immigration? Or illegal immigration?
I think mostly illegal, because you don't get a background check and you don't go through the process. Because for all I know, I don't know being a terrorist.
Okay, thank you.
You said something earlier about undocumented workers being on welfare. Can you say more about that?
Well, the undocumented workers, they are, so they are illegal immigrants, and they will lead to more people on welfare, which will give us more wealth in our country.
Which will drain the economy?
But, yeah.
So you think that instead of having undocumented workers, they should all just be documented, right? Okay.
All right. Thank you both. Welcome Zoe and Augie to the debating stage right now. Zoe is arguing in the affirmative. Restricting immigration would largely diminish terrorism. And Augie is arguing in the negative. Restricting immigration would not diminish terrorism. So you have 45 seconds to deliver your opening statement.
Thank you. Inhibiting immigration of certain groups will decrease terrorism in the United States. One of those groups are ISIS. And 9/11 could have been prevented if our background checks were better. People being suspected of terrorism in the United States are happening, and that is not good. If we restrict certain immigration, it will keep the United States safe and decrease terrorism and threats.
Thank you. You now have 1 minute to ask Zoe any clarifying questions. Zoe, you may respond.
Yes. Wouldn't restricting immigration break the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Amendment 14, which states, everyone has the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution?
It's not a law, though.
But aren't laws based on rights?
Not all of them.
What is your definition of terrorism?
Dictionary.com states, the state of fear and submission produced by terrorism or terrorization.
What is terror?
Oh, that bark means we're out of time. You now have 1 minute to deliver your opening statement.
Everyone has the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. Restricting immigration will force immigrants to seek asylum violently, causing terrorism. As legal immigrants enter Europe, violence increases on the borders. If we restrict ISIS, for instance, then it will anger them and more terrorism will occur. If Donald Trump builds a wall between the U.S. and Mexico, it would cause Americans and Mexicans to react in a violent way. The U.S. would have to upgrade all of their borders, and poverty will be on the side that loses out.
Thank you. Zoe, you now have 1 minute to ask Augie any clarifying questions, and Augie, you may respond.
You say if Donald Trump is elected, so you're basing your whole argument on what-if scenarios.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Thank you. Zoe, you now have 3 minutes to deliver your main arguments.
The terrorist group ISIS has been around since 2004. If ISIS came to the United States and tried attacking, and we restricted them, less terrorism will occur. According to a recent article from the Daily Mail, in the last 18 months, many people have been arrested for being suspected of being a part of ISIS. An immigrant named Miguel Morin Diaz, who called himself the Lone Wolf, boasted about shooting people with rifle shells engraved with the word ISIS on it. Having and letting immigrants in without a thorough background check can leave the U.S. in danger. Never forget is now a part of our American culture. Americans are still grieving about all the lives lost on 9/11. Hijackers on 9/11 entered the U.S. with temporary visas. All of them were holding 63 state driver's licenses for identification. That's about 3 to 4 licenses per attacker. The background checks to enter the United States should be more elaborate and more detailed so we aren't risking anything. Keeping our country safe should be very high on the list of things we need to accomplish. The United States and other countries are suspecting people for terrorism. A couple in Berlin were suspected of planning a terrorist attack. They were arrested after they admitted it. They entered Germany late last year and applied for asylum as Syrian refugees, which is part of a pattern of terrorism suspects entering Europe. If it happens there, why can't it happen to us?
Thank you. Augie, you now have 1 minute to state your rebuttal.
Okay, first of all, you say suspected. That doesn't mean they are. And restricting certain groups is racist. You kind of sound like Donald Trump. If we allow immigrants, they'll have other choices than terrorist groups like ISIS. And a lot of money will have to go into thorough background checks. Wouldn't it cause us it would have to cause us to upgrade all of our borders, including borders with Mexico and Canada, because of legal immigrants. And it will be a huge disruption to the economy because the U.S. is already $19.1 trillion in debt with no foreseeable way of paying it back, causing the entire country to end up in poverty. More important than economics or money, the entire idea of the United States of America is based on immigration. None of us would be here if somebody in our family trees didn't come to the U.S. looking for a better life. Immigration defines who we are as people, and the U.S. exists as a nation.
Augie, you now have 3 minutes to deliver your main arguments.
When we first arrived in the United States, you were given freedom, given a chance. Illegal immigrants are entering Europe to seek asylum, but more violence is increasing on the borders because immigrants are being restricted. If the U.S. restricted immigration, it would cause an economic disruption. The scale of the crisis has put huge pressures on these destination countries, Greece, Austria, and Hungary. It's angering those on the side that is losing out, and riots are on the borders of Europe. Why would the U.S. want to take a chance with that on our borders? Immigrants started the United States. Terrorism should not put an end to this dream. Restricting immigration causes problems. We should not target immigration just because others in their religion are doing bad things. One person doesn't reflect on a group of people. If we restrict Muslims just because of ISIS, no, that should not happen. It would anger ISIS and more terrorism will occur. The U.S. has always welcomed others, and if we don't do that, it will cause a huge economic disruption. The side that loses out will have poverty. Poverty means there will be more terrorism. Both sides will be enraged, and it will cause problems, and it will affect those already let in and already living in the United States. Any government has the right to control its borders, but we should not target immigrants. A vast majority of immigrants are children trying to seek asylum. Wouldn't restricting them cause them to be angered? Donald Trump will build a wall, and if not fulfilled, he will do something severe. Immigrants come to the U.S. to have a better life, and it will anger them if that is taken away from them. According to CNN Politics, it would cost $8 billion to build that wall. The first search on Google about Donald Trump is a video of a Mexican responding to Trump's racist comments. Rafael Rivero is enraged from these horrible comments left about his race. These efforts should not result in a wider effort to close our borders to immigrants.
Thank you. Joe, you now have 1 minute to state your rebuttal.
If we didn't let those 19 people in our country, then the Twin Towers will still be standing strong. There's no way we can tell if a person is a terrorist or not. That's why we need to keep them out. Controlling our borders sends a clear message that we don't want any terrorists in our country. And you're telling me that the cost of protecting our country is more valuable than is not the worth of American citizens' lives. How would you like it if your life had a price tag on it? Thank you.
Thank you. Zoe, you now have 1 minute to state your closing remarks.
Having terrorism in the United States will not let our country be free. Inhibiting immigration of certain groups will decrease terrorism. If we let ISIS into the United States, that would leave the U.S. in danger. Allowing people in the U.S., like the 9/11 attackers, with temporary visas means we need better background checks. People being suspected of being terrorists and arresting them will keep us safe. Having terrorists in our country will not keep us safe. We need to keep them out. Thank you.
Thank you. Augie, you now have 1 minute to make your closing statement.
Immigrants come to the United States for peace, but when we restrict them from doing so, wouldn't it anger them? Restricting immigration would not diminish terrorism, it would cause terrorism. If we restrict immigration, it would put a message out to the world. As illegal immigrants enter Europe, violence increases because there are only allowed to be a certain amount of them. The same problems will happen to us. Terrorism should not put an end to this American dream.
Thank you. We now have time for a few questions from the audience.
I guess you guys did a great job.
Our final debate is between Derek and Finn. Derek is arguing in the affirmative, restrictions on immigration are necessary, and Finn is arguing in the negative, restrictions on immigration are not necessary. All right, Derek, you have 45 seconds to deliver your opening statement.
We, as the nation, are faced with an extremely important decision that must be executed. We must restrict immigration. They're causing overpopulation, they are stealing our jobs, and they're refusing and are failing to assimilate. These two things lead to the downfall of our country and us. They will cause overpopulation. This will lead to a lack of resources. They're taking our jobs and replacing it with only a fraction of the amount, and they are failing to assimilate, which is not fit for a thriving society. Therefore, we have to restrict immigration. The millions upon millions of illegal immigrants and legal immigrants will do or are doing those three named things. And this will lead to terrible things.
Thank you. Finn, you have now 1 minute to ask Garrick any clarifying questions. Garrick, you may respond. No questions, all right. Finn, you now have 45 seconds to deliver your opening statement.
Restrictions on immigration are absurd, nonsensical, and absolutely unnecessary. Because immigration, without a doubt, benefits America, and restricting it would harm our relations with other countries. Firstly, that immigration raises our GDP. Secondly, we're a nation founded by immigrants, and finally, immigrants have a right to seek asylum in our country. So I ask, are restrictions on immigration really necessary?
Thank you, Garrick. You now have a minute to ask any clarifying questions, and Finn, you may respond.
It does in fact make sense that we restrict immigration, because no matter if we all are immigrants, they are still immigrating in amounts that will cause mass overpopulation, thus creating the destruction and collapse of society within this century. Also, immigrants seek asylum here for protection from what they fear. They cannot seek protection here within this century because there will be too many people.
Do you have a question for Finn?
What about restricted immigration is nonsensical. The fact that it protects all of the current residents from societal collapse, is the fact that it protects American immigrants. And how can immigrants benefit America if they notice that they're entering it by solely destroying it?
Well, immigration also creates jobs as well as, well, it also creates jobs along with, of course, raising the GDP.
All right, thank you. That's time. Garrick, you now have 3 minutes to deliver your main arguments.
If we continue to allow immigrants to enter the U.S. in the numbers that they are coming in, we will have overpopulation, which will lead to lack of resources. U.S. population will double within this century, causing mass overpopulation. By 2020, the U.S. will add enough population to create the 95 largest cities in the U.S. Fertility level is lower than replacement level, and in conclusion, being that the United States is the largest country to have immigrants by far, we cannot keep absorbing all of the millions of immigrants that enter the U.S. every year at this exponential rate. If this continues to happen, U.S. population will double within this century and cause immense overpopulation, which will lead to poverty, starvation, suffering, societal collapse, economic collapse, and drainage of all U.S. government resources. This will also largely affect other countries, which we get most of our resources from. We must take action now while we still have the chance. My second point is that illegal immigrants take jobs away from American citizens. According to a review of the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics and Census Bureau data, legal and illegal immigrants gained over 1 million additional jobs between 2008 and 2010, even as millions of American citizens were losing their jobs during the same time period. Therefore, we must restrict immigration, because if we don't, millions of country-born U.S. citizens will lose their jobs as a fraction of that number will be replaced by immigrants. This will cause a lack of workers and a crash of the economy and our society. And finally, immigrants are failing to assimilate, even some are refusing to assimilate. We need immigrants to assimilate to maintain a well-functioning society. According to WND, as sociologists point out, members of a culture must conform to its norms for the culture to exist and function well. And the better those norms are, the greater they benefit society. It is observable that ours are better and have taken us much farther as a nation than theirs have taken the country that seek escape from en masse. In order for that to occur, they must be taught what those social norms and values are, with the expectation that they will follow them and pass them on to their children. In a well-functioning society, people cooperate like a system of interconnected parts because they will believe that it is the right thing to do. Therefore, we must have all immigrants assimilate in order to maintain a well-functioning, or functioning at all, society. If this is not met, we will have broken societies and segregated races.
Thank you. Thank you. Then you now have 1 minute to respond to the rebuttal.
Okay, so for your first argument, Americans already wasted an insane amount of resources, and therefore, why are you saying that immigrants are causing every single, or all of this, resource waste? For your second one, immigrants can also create new jobs as well as take new jobs as well. And for your third thing, the social control that you're talking about sounds an awful lot like Nazi Germany to me. And that's all.
Thank you, Finn. Finn, you now have 3 minutes to deliver your main arguments.
Okay. Restricting immigration will only harm our economy and the nation as a whole. Immigrants that come into our country are highly educated and hard workers, and therefore raise the GDP. An article The Atlantic published states that new immigrants are smart and hardworking and would raise the GDP. Why keep out these skilled workers and great thinkers and thus harm America? Restricted immigration are hypocritical. America was founded by immigrants, and therefore it would be nonsensical to keep them out. In a speech by President Obama, he stated that we're a nation founded by immigrants and keep them out. Common sense dictates that we shouldn't keep immigrants out, so why restrict them? People coming into our country are seeking asylum. Immigrants have a right to seek asylum in our country because of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 14, which states that they have a right to seek asylum. Restricting immigrants would only undermine the concept of human rights, and we would be shunned by other countries for doing so.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Garrett, you now have 1 minute to state your rebuttal to Finn's arguments.
A higher GDP won't help against the societal collapse. And immigrants cannot create more jobs if most can't even afford it. And what is your proof that all immigrants are smart and hardworking? All, you said all.
Many statistics.
Then you'll have time to respond to your closing statement. Sorry.
It's just when usually ask.
That's it.
Thank you. Garrett, you now have 1 minute to deliver your closing statement.
Second.
You only have 44.
Therefore, we must restrict immigration, because if we don't, we will have overpopulation, which will lead to lack of resources. We won't have enough working people, and we won't have well-functioning societies.
Thank you. Finn, you now have 1 minute to give your closing statement.
Okay. Restrictions on immigration are absurd and would only harm our country along with relations with other countries. Immigration raises the GDP along with being the very foundation of our country, and restricting it would go against an official document we signed. Perhaps now you at least understand how harmful restricting immigration would be on our economy and foreign relations, and possibly would rethink your need to unnecessarily restrict immigration to the downfall of us all. That is all.
Thank you. We have a few minutes for a few questions from the audience. Yes.
How is it possible that you can blame immigrants for the lack of resources in the world when don't you think it's probably the mismanagement of the world leaders and the system, the 1%ers, let's say, that are holding all the resources and not allowing them to be spread across populations worldwide, rather than just blaming the immigrants?
No comment.
All right, thank you both very much.